It's time. It's time. It's time that I address something that I have been keeping a secret from y'all. Spider-Man 3, made by Sam Raimi, played by the actor Tobey. I loved Sandman, as you all may know. Sam Raimi's original idea for the film was just to have Sandman entirely, just him. That and Hobgoblin. But I've come to a stunning conclusion. To make the film work, you shouldn't have Sandman at all. Sandman was Sam Raimi's ultimate desperation here. That was his ultimate goal and what he wanted to do. But I will give Venom one thing: the symbiote. Without it, you wouldn't have Bully Maguire. Because remember, Tobey Maguire, Venom, Bully Maguire. Venom is Bully Maguire. But I have one more thing to say. Venom works. Yes, I know. He works. In this film, I've come to a stunning conclusion that Sandman is just plot filler. For the main villain that Sam Raimi wanted, he sure didn't treat the character with all the kindness that I think he wanted to treat him with. Because they were using his most iconic villains, which, like I said, Goblin and Otto, they're definitely the main two. But you gotta understand, I think Venom works because he's kind of why the main part of the story was, Peter Parker. He's pretty overconfident nowadays, and he's pretty confident in his ability. Well, that's true. But what if most of the movie was just Venom's on Peter, Black Suit Spider-Man. Then there's the Bell scene. Eddie Brock and Venom could have been like, I don't know, I don't know. I think I respect Sam Raimi, and when it comes to Sam Raimi, I think it should have been only Spider-Man. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me get my thoughts together, because I just came up with this theory and I'm just recording. Let me put this way. At the beginning of the movie, they showed Venom first. This is where we're going to have a problem when it comes to Sandman. Depending on who you want it to be, it don't really matter. Because the more the movies went on, the villains kept getting less and less evil. Because Green Goblin, he was a full-on villain. He was just more or less using Norman like a host. Kind of like Venom. But not in the same way, but more or less just a split personality. Otto, he was being controlled by the arms, technically, and was pretty upset about his wife's death. Alright. Gotta finish what he started. He died a human, not a monster. But this is where the story gets divided between Sandman and Venom. You have 50 other things going on with MJ, then there's Gwen showing up randomly, Harry and him becoming the Hobgoblin, then there's Venom, then there's Sandman. Now, when it comes to who I think had the better effects, Venom. He had a few ups and downs, but he looked better than that big form that Sandman was crushing Peter with. Now, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 also falls into this category, between Electro and, well, Green Goblin. Now, they already showed the Goblin, which I didn't really care for. I feel like it would have been a better idea to just keep Electro and Rhino, and then Harry could have. But here's where the villains that are most hated, which were Venom and Green Goblin, not in Sam Raimi's. No. Willem Dafoe he's a godsend. I don't know what I just did. I don't know. Religion. But they seem to make the most sense. Venom comes down from asteroid. Okay, I can work with that. Gets on Peter Parker. Eventually leaves him for a different host. Family drama. Girlfriend drama. Alright, I can see that. Boom. Venom get on Eddie. Big bad guy gotta fight. Dun, 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 dun. Bah. Bingo. Movie. They didn't have, and they could have made a movie, because I mean the movie was, I believe, close to 2 hours. Yeah, somewhere near that. I'll look it up. It was close to 2 hours. Take out the Sandman plot, and you've got a pretty good movie, to be honest with you. Think about it. New Goblin and Spider-Man have to team up because Venom is just too strong. Doc Ock was definitely a more rising threat with his sun machine thing, but that was just the sun. I hate it how people keep calling Tom the strongest. Because, sure, he was able to maybe stagger Thanos in a way. He was able to make Thanos be like, ooh, ow. Maybe at that much. But not to physically hurt him to the point where it's like, oh. Tom never did that, and he didn't really stop the fairy. He holded it pretty much like, all right, let me put this. Toby holded the train for about 5 minutes. Tops. Tom could hardly handle that thing for 1 minute until Iron Man had to come in and be like, and say, and Iron Man practically came in saying, Iron Man fixes everything, which is kind of true. But here's where I think this was a good idea. Electro, all right. Rhino, okay, I like that. A bit of a weird mix-up. I would rather see Shocker, you know? You know what? If they were going to do the whole team-up thing in the worst Spider-Man movie known to mankind, Sam Raimi, I love you, man. You know, your movie's awesome. Sandman, I love how you wanted to do that. But they just said that they had to have Venom as a rising threat, not as a main villain. Because when I go on Google, Spider-Man 3's main villain. Oh, it's Venom. You could have had Sandman as the main villain, kill Venom off pretty quickly, and boom, Sandman fighting. Because no matter what you do, Venom was more a part of the story than Sandman was. So that, and there was more scenes with the black suit Spider-Man than Sandman in the movie in general. So you could have just had a pretty good Venom storyline. I do feel like they could have made Venom's voice a little CGI modded. I don't know. But when it comes to the story, I think Venom works best for Spider-Man 3 because he was a more rising threat. He was in the story more. He gave us Bully Maguire. What else do you need? Sandman, he was a good part of the story. I personally love his character more. But at the same time, it's Venom, pretty bulky. That and he's just Venom, man. I mean, I'm starting to lean a bit towards him. I'm starting to give him a bit more respect. So, Venom, Spider-Man 3's villain. Sandman is more or less just side filler. Now, y'all are going to hate me for this. Electro is stupid as hell. It's like Broly's backstory. This is how Broly's backstory went. Crybaby. Broly. I am the legendary Super Saiyan. I will avenge my fallen pride. Ah! This is Electro. Oh, gosh, guys, I really love Spider-Man. Oh, no, oh, Jesus! Spider-Man saves him. Tongue, please. Thank you. Dip-dap your hair. Mm-hmm. You're somebody. Swings off. Oh my god, I'm Spider-Man's imaginary boyfriend. Yeah. I am now a superpowered god. That is not how you write a villain. I love villains. The main part of superhero movies are villains and how they relate to the main story and character amongst their peers of their superhero side, opposite. Glad that we got that out of the way. Green Goblin. Horrible. Everything that you can't see has to be fixed. Everything that you don't see, I mean, I love the suit. I love the glider. They could have kept Rhino for the second film and Electro then. Green Goblin and Electro are obviously the best choices for this film. They just need to change. They just need to make the Green Goblin a lot more interesting, and Electro's backstory less stupid as hell. They could have made this work for Sam Raimi's trilogy, but I don't know. Morbius, I've confirmed it. He is in the Amazing Spider-Man world, in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. When Green Goblin was going through the Alchemax files, he showed up right under Kurt Connors' name. So, that was the first ever leak. Never gonna be the only one. I refuse to believe that he's in Tom's world, because, no, he's not in Tom's world, but maybe Andrew's world, maybe, yeah, definitely. Hold on. Yet again, I'm sorry. Green Goblin, I feel like should have been the main villain for the Amazing Spider-Man 2. And then they could have showed Rhino at the credits. The reason why I say the Green Goblin, I feel like it would have been a very emotional story, because if they were able to make the actor a little bit more kind of emotional for the role, it would be the only thing really wrong with the movie then would just be, wait, why wasn't he ever mentioned in the first one? That's the only problem you'd really have with it, but you give a villain an emotional story, so it kind of balances out. Electro, because when it comes to Spider-Man 3, you got Venom and Sandman, but you can't really rewrite the movie without Venom. For one main reason. Well, you can't do it for one reason because, well, half the movie has Venom in it. Bully Maguire, Peter's ego. It's specifically a part of the movie that you cannot erase. Sandman was shown for 20 minutes, or no, not even that. 9 minutes and 26 seconds tops in that movie. I'm just saying, man, I think Sandman is more of a side filler. Venom worked for the movie 100% more, even though Sam Raimi, in his original beliefs, really wanted the main villain part to fall into the Sandman. We got Spider-Man 3 over with. Now, that's why Spider-Man 3 cannot really work with two villains. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, on the other hand, it can fall into both roles. Electro is mainly titled to be the big bad guy. Well, in Spider-Man 3, you had the new Goblin to kind of take in half of Sandman's part. There's technically 3 villains in the movie that keeps, kind of keeps the whole part here a little bit balanced. The Rhino. There was 3 villains in each of these movies. But you got the main 2 villains, Venom, Sandman. Then there's Electro and Green Goblin. The Amazing Spider-Man 2's Green Goblin. Don't put up your AKs. But here's where things fall into play. You got Rhino and the new Goblin. The new Goblin was meant to be, in progressing the part of the story. Well, Rhino isn't. He was meant to show up as a little cameo and say, yeah, I'm going to be in the next movie. Alright. I could see Rhino perfectly being a movie villain on his own. Think about it. Rhino, too strong for Spider-Man. The machinery is whooping his arse. He's being flung around and hardly damaged the big old Rhino. And the sewer lid throw is probably the most iconic scene in that movie. Don't at me. But I will say one thing. I do think The Amazing Spider-Man 2 plays this movie out way better. Because either way you go, it don't matter. If you had Electro in the movie, it don't matter. He could have been the main villain, and he is. Just take the Green Goblin out. Boom, you have more stuff for the Electro. He goes back home, he gets evicted. He has to go through all this trouble, and he eventually thinks that Spider-Man is the cause of this. Booyah. Fight. If you went with Green Goblin as the main villain, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Green Goblin, if you went with that, you could have made Harry feel betrayed because he knew that Spider-Man was Peter. Then he kills Gwen for revenge, which he technically did. But if Electro wasn't in the story, it would have been a lot better to see, because the glider could have been. Harry could have been using his glider, gliding around, throwing bombs. Spider-Man dodging, pew pew pew. You know, then Green Goblin gets off the glider, and it shows that Harry was definitely more skilled at fighting, because he's rich and can just get ultimate Taekwondo classes and the professional black belt at me. What? Booyah! You got the Green Goblin. Electro would definitely feel more related and tied around himself. Green Goblin would more or less just be more or less a betrayed story. Whew. But if they wanted to make Sandman possible, then here's what I think. The beginning of the movie begins. Venom don't come. They go home, you know. Then it shows Sandman. He's running, gets his powers. Spider-Man and Sandman meet for the first time. They could have done the same exact thing that they did with Green Goblin, but somehow tie in the death of Peter Parker's uncle in there. And for the fourth movie, they could have done. So yes, they could have made Sandman a possible villain. Just I don't think it would have been possible with. It's just not possible to do without Venom. Venom is a more progressing part of the story, and along with New Goblin, Sandman's more or less just filler. When it comes to the Amazing Spider-Man 2, Harry's definitely more filler than Green Goblin. Harry is way more filler than Electro. So either way, though, I really wouldn't care, because we would have gotten the Amazing Spider-Man 3. I would have loved to seen, like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Would have loved to seen, like, just basically, there's a video, I watched it, go watch it. I'm not going to leave the link below, because I'm not like that. Just look up the Amazing Spider-Man 3 timeline and sequels that were never made. I'm a Spider-Man fan. How you doing? God, I've been talking for 23 minutes. This has to stop. All right, listen. I've told you my theories. Venom fits way better into the story of, well, Spider-Man 3. If I had to choose, then Electro for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 should have been just the focus. It could have set up Harry for the next film as the Green Goblin, and everybody would have been like excited because we're getting the Green Goblin. But then you just see him and you're just like, from my hair. I don't know. Electro could have been the main focus of this movie. Nothing else. I don't feel like there could have been like scientists provoking him. Could have been like an ancient evil Dragon Ball type villain. I don't know. They made Green Goblin. I feel like Electro just that more. Harry could have like freed him, and then Harry could have gotten mad that Electro lost. So then Harry has to get geared up, and at the end it shows them all geared up, and it gives him a laugh. And Rhino shows up at a post credit sequence, and he has to fight and all that. Well, I'll see y'all later. This has been the Big Chungus. Have a nice day.